It's 7. I think we only have about 3 attendees at the moment. So we're going to just hang on and wait and see if more people start streaming in the next 5 minutes. Maybe we'll just hang on for a bit and then start proper at maybe 7:05. Kristen, did you manage to do any traveling with the VTLs?
No, I didn't. Yeah. What about yourself?
No. Yeah, it's so funny. I suddenly had lots of transitions towards the end of last year. So absolutely no time for it to even think about travel, but hopefully maybe towards the middle of this year or the end of this year, if Omicron doesn't get to other hand.
Okay, I think we're all hopeful that by maybe end of this year, we should be able to start traveling again.
Yeah, I think it's just not just inconvenient, but also really expensive, right? Like all the pre-testing and the testing upon arrival and all of that. So, but yeah, a lot of people I know actually sort of like rushed over to Korea late last year, early this year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Actually, the moment it started opening, VTL started opening up, I saw a lot of people posting their travel stories already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone's quite eager to get out of the country. Yeah. It's been quite some time, and no one expected to be grounded in Singapore for so long.
I know. Yeah. I think being stuck here for about 2 years made me sort of explore a lot of places I haven't been previously, and like seeking out green spaces and nature walks and stuff like that, which I wouldn't have done if it's just a normal year.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. I think it really forced a lot of us to step out of our comfort zone and to find like new things to do in Singapore. Yeah. Especially it being a very small country.
Yes, the claustrophobia is quite real. Yeah.
So what are some interesting places that you have discovered?
So I don't think the places I discovered were anything new, right? It's just I've not been. So like I finally did the Henderson Walk. Yeah, and I think there's this walking trail around Thomson where you can see like these some remains of an old village. That was pretty cool.
In Thomson?
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's
all
pretty
these
cool.
Interesting things that I didn't even know we had around town. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think did a lot of hiking. Yeah. A lot of baking.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I think baking can be very soothing.
Yeah, I do find it quite therapeutic. Yeah. And everyone gets to enjoy eating, so
that's the best part, right? Yes.
It is. Yeah.
Actual reward at the end of the activity.
Yeah, and it's something that you can share with others too.
Mm-hmm. Hi everyone, welcome. We're just waiting on more participants coming in. I think we're at about 5 people now. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming early.
I think we can start in a minute, and then we just let the others come in at their own time. Okay, gonna start.
Sure.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Christine. I'm from Ferne Health, and today we have a safe space therapist, Shila Naidu, here with us. So today's topic is about navigating the important conversations, and these are conversations we have with our family, friends, colleagues, and partners. And it's for both single and people in relationships. So we're gonna cover topics about um, how we approach conversations surrounding sex and relationships, and some challenges that singles and couples face during the pandemic. Yeah. So we have Sheila here with us, and Sheila is actually a therapist at Safe Space, and she has worked in the nonprofit for almost 5 years now before becoming a counselor. And she has a heart for working with individuals who have been marginalized by mainstream society. And she uses trauma-informed, strength-based, and LGBTQ-sensitive approaches in her practice. Yeah, so Sheila, would you like to share a little bit more about yourself as well?
Sure. Thanks, Christine. Yeah, so I've been, I see more people joining us. Hello, hi. Yeah, so I've been a therapist over here with Safe Space for some months, but practicing counseling for over probably about 2 years now, both in community setting as well as in private practice. And yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. Really sharing what I'm passionate about, which is working with marginalized communities. And I've done quite a bit of work with couples as well as LGBTQ plus individuals. Yeah.
Thank you. So, right before we jump into our topics today, we would like to run a little poll for everyone to take part in. Yeah.
Yes. So if you're able to see the poll, just wanting to ask you some questions just to learn a little bit more about who you are, the audience who are here tonight. So just your ages, relationship status, and how has COVID impacted your love life, if at all?
Okay. We see some answers coming in.
Yeah. Nice. It's a mix.
Also keep the poll open in case new people will be coming in. They can answer this poll. We'll keep this poll live.
Thank you. Thanks, Anne.
I'm just taking a look at the results as well.
Yeah, it's great. We have a good range of ages and people in different kinds of relationships.
Okay, yeah, so we'll keep the poll live. So anyone who's joining can join us, can do the poll. And yeah,
Thanks
okay.
for taking part, everyone. Yeah.
We do have a question here. Will we be tackling conversations about sex as well? Yes, to a certain extent, we will be having some discussions about sex, and there will be a 10 minutes Q&A after. the floor will be open to the audience for you to ask questions for Sheila. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna start screen sharing. Okay, so yeah, as mentioned earlier, the topic today is about navigating the important conversations. So conversations occur on a daily basis in our life, but what are the important conversations to have, you know, when you are in a relationship, or whether you are single and you want to talk about certain things to your friends and your partners, and you don't know how to go about doing them. So that's what we're here today with Sheila, so that we can go deeper into how we can navigate difficult conversations. Yeah, so the first topic we have is the challenges singles and individuals face during the pandemic. So like during this period of COVID, we've been in through circuit breaker, been through phase 2 heightened alert, phase 3, and then coming out now we have our restrictions. So it has gone from like 8 packs to 5 packs to 2 packs. We've really gone through everything. And we have seen how this has impacted not only just our lives in general, but also our relationship with the people around us. Friends that we used to hang out very often with, like in huge groups, now we have to selectively choose who to hang out with. And then on top of that, there is we are all working from home most of the time. And this is when we are in extended hours with the people close to us that are at home, and they'll be bound to have like friction or some disagreements that occurs. And during the challenges that individuals face during the pandemic, there's also doubt, anxiety that surrounds sex. They often wonder, oh, dating is getting harder because you don't go out as often. It's harder to meet people now because you don't hang out in bigger groups. The opportunities to meet new people is lower. And also when it comes to having sex, so people are having these doubts and anxiety. So I just wanted to also ask, getting to meet new people, it is very difficult right now, and some people are struggling to do so. So do you have some tips for us on what are some ways to cope?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the frustration, the anxiety, and the isolation is so real, especially for our single friends out there. It's almost like the pandemic has put like a delay on your love life. It's almost like it's like love life is halted to maybe hopefully not a stop, but really halted to a very, very slow pace, right? And I think, Kristen, what you mentioned is so true. In the past, there weren't really restrictions on group sizes and how many people we can meet. So we can meet friends of friends, we can, bump into people when we go out, and there weren't all those restrictions, whereas now you're only allowed to meet 5 people. You're always going to, of course, meet the 5 people that mean the most to you or that are the closest to you. And suddenly our social circles have just shrunk. Where are we going to meet these new individuals or potential partners, potential lovers? Like, how will we ever get to meet them? And I think when I speak to a lot of my single friends around online dating, Zoom dates and things like that, I think they feel that it's so hard to forge a real connection. It feels shallow. It takes too long to go deeper, and I completely empathize with these feelings. And I think there's also now where we can meet in pairs and go out on dates. So things have gotten a little bit better. But I think there's also a lot of anxiety around, okay, before we would talk about, what we want in a relationship, right? What we want in our partner, what we expect, what our interests are. But now there are like additional levels, like additional layers you need to have in the conversation around, have you been vaccinated? Have you been exposed to anyone with COVID? Did you get a high risk warning? Anyone in your family in isolation or in quarantine? And there are all these questions that we need to ask now on top of the usual stuff, the usual getting to know you. And I think it almost makes the relationship feel like, wow, this is so high commitment, there's so much more I need to get out of you and hear from you before we even go out on a date. And I think that can also be quite anxiety inducing. Like, how serious or how far do I want to take this? And is it so much effort? Is it too much effort for just a simple first date, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of the isolation that our single friends face also comes from the sense that I can't even get a hug or a kiss, from someone. I can't get any physical touch. And I think that's something a lot of us who are in relationships where we live with our partners, like, we really take that for granted. And something that I think a lot of our single friends had to really deal with, this that isolation of not having anyone touch you or hold you. I think that matters a lot as well. So when it comes to dating and meeting new people, I think in this point, we're going to have to be a lot more, I think, intentional is the word. It's not as easy as before, where you're going to bump into a friend of friend at a bar. You're not going to, get to bump into maybe a cute guy in the lift on the way to the office, not like before. So you're going to have to be a lot more intentional, put in a little bit more work when it comes to, whether it's on the dating apps or whether it's on social media, or reaching out to maybe someone who you thought, who you had met pre-COVID and think that there might have been something there. So a little bit more effort is going to have to go into it. So what I would suggest is maybe start conversations about your expectations, how much work both of you are willing to put into this. Is it really, are you just looking for something casual, or do you really hope this will go somewhere? I've read a lot of articles about how during the pandemic, people actually wanted it to just be a casual relationship. But because of how intentional and how much work has to go into it, because all the circumstances are different, they actually ended up making it a serious relationship, because so much effort, so much more effort than in the non-pandemic time. So be also open to how relationships, the status may change and the circumstances around it may change. I think it's good also to be, as singles especially, have very good friendships. Hold on to those friendships, because in the times where you may not have a romantic partner, your friends are the ones that you can really talk to openly. And I think, don't feel bad about sharing how difficult and isolating the time is for you. Talk about your frustrations about dating, about not meeting the right person. It is completely okay, and it's much better to voice these difficulties you're feeling. Having someone to talk to, you're definitely going to feel better after sharing, and talking. I think one thing you can also do, something that I feel has really increased the isolation, is that when we're working from home, we tend to just work the whole day. You don't really see when the day starts or when it ends. So I would suggest really, again, right, the word being intentional, schedule in time for yourself, for your self-care, schedule in time for friends, even if it's just meeting to play games online. Schedule in time for a date or a relationship. You have to actually put in these times and schedule it in, or it may not happen, because the whole day just blends into one when you're working from home. Yeah, and I've had clients also tell me, we're going through a pandemic, people are losing their jobs, people incomes are on the line. How can I just go and tell people that, I'm lonely, I'm isolated, I want a boyfriend, I want a girlfriend? Like, it feels so whiny, it feels so insignificant in light of all the big things that are happening. So I just want to remind you that your feelings, your needs are completely valid, and find people who are willing to hear you out, caring and safe individuals, right, who will hear you out and give you that time of day to talk about your feelings, because they matter. And you shouldn't have to feel like doubly isolated because you can't even talk about what is making you feel this way. So I would say my quick tips are definitely schedule in time for your own self-care, your own love life, for your own relationships, and find safe people to talk to, foster good friendships, and and do what you can to meet your own sexual needs, even if it means investing in really good sex toys, having phone sex or virtual sex safer, right? Don't have to ask so many questions about vaccinations and all of that. So do what you have to, schedule it in, be intentional about your love life during this very strange pandemic period. Yeah.
Thank you. That was really
Welcome.
insightful. Yeah, I think the part where you said, to be intentional about it is it cannot be more accurate, because in this time where, like you say, if we're working from home, our lives just blend into the day, and we don't really have a point where we say, okay, I'm gonna start working and stop working, and then I'll be doing this. So you have to make the effort to actually be very conscious about what you do with your time. And if you are looking to date, to meet new people, then do it in a safe manner. So
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
okay. So moving on to our next question is challenges faced during isolation with couples and families. Yeah. So we hear stories where, as I mentioned earlier, when people tend to spend long time in close proximity, there will be friction that arises. And but interestingly, according to Straits Times, it has been reported that there's a sharp fall in the number of marriages that ended in 2021, which is last year, compared to 2019. So would you say that being cooped up at home, working from home, has helped foster better relationships?
Yeah, I was encouraged when I read these statistics, because I think it is quite counter to what is happening in other parts of the world. So I think we're doing something right, and kudos to Singaporean, families, and kudos to Singaporean partners. I think we're doing something right. I think that this isolation, being cooped up with your family, it really, I think there's a lot of stresses that come out of it, because suddenly you are exposed to all the little things that used to annoy you about your partner or your child or your parent, but now it's amplified. You're living with that the whole day, and not just a couple of hours in the evening, right? So there's that. And then I think there's also this sense of, I think especially for a lot of parents, and especially single parents, where they may have to have the whole brunt of the caregiving duties, where it's like caring for the children who are in homeschooling, and then you have to do your own work, and then you have to cook and clean, and all of that. So I think if you're in a partnership and if there's two parents in the household, at least there's some help and support there. But if you're all alone, I can just imagine that there'll be so much stress and tension on that single parent having to do it all alone. Oh, sorry, I think the slides jumped. Would you want to
Yes,
go
sorry.
back to? Yeah, no problem. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, I think when it comes to stressful relationships at home, I think I don't really have anything very new to say here. It's going to be things that you guys have heard before, which is really communication. Just communicate well, communicate clearly. And I think when I see clients or couples, who are going through a stressful time in the relationship, more often than not, everything goes back to communication, as well as mismatched expectations. So what do I mean by mismatched expectations? It's like, you sort of you don't realize that your partner actually has a certain assumption, and that assumption has come about because you have not been communicating clearly enough. And so one example is, you've just had enough, and then you blurt out, "Why do you not care about me?" And your partner might be thinking, where is this coming from? I've done the grocery shopping, I wash up after dinner. What do you mean I don't care about you? So if we were to communicate that directly, then it would sound like, when you did this last evening, be specific, right? What is that incident? When you did that last evening, I really felt like you didn't care about me. And then why? because you put your colleagues before our quality time, for example. So it's really specific, and then your partner doesn't have to do any guesswork around why is he or she saying that, why are they saying that, and you can immediately address what the issue is. Yeah, I think a lot of problems come out of assumptions. And unfortunately, when we are too tired to communicate clearly, we go down this road of assumptions. Yeah, yes. And I think also, sometimes within families, you also have maybe one person who is quarantined or isolated and cannot mingle with the rest of the family. And then you have that one person bearing the full brunt, right, of the household and taking care of everything. So I think during those times, it is also important to understand that there are two people living in the same house who are experiencing the world completely differently. One person isolated, super lonely, just wants time, is hoping maybe for more phone calls, more video calls. But then the other person in the family, it's just a crazy rush from the time they get up to nighttime, because whatever household chores were shared by 2 or 3 people is now all on them. And so that person is not, it might be really difficult for them to actually make time to spend time or do anything even nice for the person in quarantine or isolation. So, just having that mutual understanding that, okay, it's going to be a really tough 2 weeks where we are experiencing the world so differently. And how can we rebalance that when the person is safe to come back out and rejoin the family? Like, what can we do during that time? Yeah, so lots of things to balance, and really I would say, if you think things are sort of devolving and unraveling in your relationship, please do talk to someone. A lot of times when clients come, you see both ends. You see the proactive ones who come when things are just starting, and you're like, oh, I'm glad you're here because things are not so bad and we can work on it. But you also see some clients where things are at such a dead end. They're not willing, they're not just not able to work through anymore because so much has happened. So I really want to encourage you to be proactive and find help as soon as possible, whether it's with private practice or with a community-based therapist. Get help. And yeah, I think a lot of us in the field are very attuned to the pandemic stresses on relationships. So I'm sure you will be able to get good help wherever you look.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, that it may be something that we hear often, which is to communicate. But when it comes down to communicating with partners, with our family members, more often than not, a lot of things get lost in translation. So I think when we take out assumption out of the picture and really clearly get down to the point, to be specific about, what we are unhappy about or what we wish can be done better, then a lot of conflicts can be avoided in that way. Yeah,
absolutely. I think something I hear a lot from clients is, we've been married for so long, or we've been dating for so long, how come she doesn't know me? Why do they not know me? Why would they not know that I don't think like that? But yeah, people change, we grow, we have our experiences change, our likes and dislikes change. So always be kind, respectful and direct, and that will just help so much.
Thank you. Okay, so our next point is how conversations around sexual relationships have changed during the pandemic. So once again, we have the statistics from Straight Science. Is a study that found married women here in Singapore are reporting that there is an increase in sexual activity, during this time. And in the article, it says that it's a good thing because our population rates were initially dwindling, and with more people engaging in sexual activity, there could be a possibility that would help with the numbers for our population. Yeah. So, with this, it also ties in with conversations that people have about sexual relationships. And so what do you think are some ways to approach healthy conversations when we are talking about sex with our partners and our friends?
Yeah, definitely. Again, right, I'm so encouraged by the statistic. Like I love how Singapore is just, we're so different from the rest of the world. Something that I did read was how, pandemic stress is actually sort of dampening the libido and sex drives of many people because there's so many more things on their minds. So, reading this, I'm glad that, here in Singapore, married women actually are reporting having more sex, which is great because as you all may know, sex, it increases oxytocin and endorphins that are great for us, that are healthy, happy making hormones, healthy hormones that can combat cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So having more sex during a stressful time seems like a really good idea. Yeah. So some ways to talk about healthy conversations, right? I would say the pandemic definitely has really changed the way we talk about approaching sex as well. I think especially around with my single friends, right, when I talk to them. And so it's similar to what I shared in the first question, right? We're talking about how now we have to ask more questions, about their health status, not just in terms of sexual health status, but also COVID wise, the last time, we might be talking about what our sexual boundaries are when you're talking to your partner, what are our sexual boundaries, preferences, safety and all of that. But now we're going to have to be talking about, are you vaccinated? Are you safe? Were you in contact with anyone with COVID? So those are definitely things to start talking about before you have any sexual contact with an individual, right? Even if it's just oral sex, please do have these conversations with your partner. Of course, especially if they're a new partner. Have these conversations before you start doing anything with them. And also, something that might be exciting and interesting is to also talk about. So I read this, which I thought was just such a brilliant suggestion in a New York, I think it was a New York Health Department. They had a mailer out, just to tell people how to be safe. And a brilliant suggestion they had was, can we also talk and discuss with our partners about sexual positions that allow us to not have our faces so close together? So what are some interesting new positions we could try, that we don't have to have our faces close together. And if you don't feel so safe, you could try those, especially if it's a new partner and you're not sure about their COVID status, right? Although you should be having those conversations earlier, please do. Yeah, so interesting and creative ways to approach sex during the pandemic, right? So that's one thing. And also I think, start looking at sexual health as an extension of your overall health. Um, Sexual health can be seen together with as a part of your physical health. We always talk about mental health, physical health, emotional health. Sexual health is an important part of that too. We're all, we're all sexual beings. It's a part of our humanity. That's who we are. That's how we're made. No one teaches us to have sexual urges or, to or desire a sexual relationship. It's just part of our makeup. So if we look at it as a healthy and normal part of existing as a human being, it'll be easier to have these conversations. Yeah, and I think, having these conversations early on in the relationship, and also in a time where you are already where you are not exactly already having sex, right? So it could be a time where, you're just maybe talking over coffee, not so much in the thick of it and already in the mood. It helps you also make good logical decisions around what you want with this partner for your sex life. So things like safety, preferences, these are things that are better to be had while you are calm and not exactly so like turned on and in the mood, so that you can actually have a calm and logical conversation around it and decide what is best for the both of you. I think, that's what I think I would have to say about this. Be creative, right? And be direct and clear about what you need from your partner to keep you safe. And about talking with friends, I would say, maybe, if you are in a relationship, you may want to talk to your partner about, okay, if we do talk to our friends about this, what kind of boundaries do we want to have around this? Are you comfortable with me sharing? What are you comfortable with me sharing? And of course, who will I have such conversations with? Like I will only talk to them with my 3 besties. No one else will hear about this. I think if you're in especially a long-term or a committed relationship, it's good to have these boundaries set up, also to respect the privacy of your partner. And I think there can be a lot of good that comes out of talking about sex and sexual health with our friends. For example, a lot of things I learned about, growing up, right? Learning about side effects of the birth control pill, or different methods of contraception, how they affected my friends and how were my reactions different. These are healthy conversations to have, to learn more about our bodies and to have a discussion and also realize how, the same item or the same medicine, the same contraception can affect us so differently. And when you're also talking about sex with your friends, with trusted friends, they might also be able to tell you like, oh, I think that's a bit strange. You may want to get that checked out. Or, oh, I experienced something similar and this product really worked for me, or that position really worked for me. I think it's helpful to have a trusted community to talk about sex with. And it also, like, I think makes the friendships so much more close, right? Like to be able to share your life so deeply with each other. So yes, I think it's always great to have a trusted circle of friends that you can have these intimate conversations with as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the part where you mentioned about having a trusted circle of friends to have these conversations. It is something that a lot of us may be searching for or looking for, but because we don't know what our friends would think of us, so they think that we're very promiscuous and or they are too shy to talk about these things. But in working at Ferne and also speaking to a lot of our customers and our followers, they are very keen to actually open up this conversation to talk more and share more information with one another. Like you mentioned, someone could be taking the same birth control pills, but everyone's body reacts very differently to it. Yeah, so some conversations when you share them with your close friends, you get to learn a lot more. And with what you learn, the curiosity that piques your interest, you go do more research. And this is the extension of your sexual health that you're caring for. That is equally as important as, like you said earlier, your mental health, your emotional health, your relationships with people. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Moving on to our last topic for the evening is how to bring up the topic of sexual health testing. So I think quite similar to talking about the topics, that surrounding sexual relationships. Sexual health testing is something that I would feel it in Singapore is not something that we talk about very widely, or at least if we do a sexual health test, it is very personal. We don't go about telling people like, oh, I'm taking a sexual health test, because they feel that there is a stigma associated to it. Yeah, so it can be sensitive to bring up, and I'd like to know from your perspective, what are some ways to bring up sexual health testing without offending your partner?
Yeah, this is such an important question. And I think, Kristen, very, very correctly, like what you shared, it's sort of like there's, I think, 2 layers of awkwardness and anxiety when it comes to this question. One is, yes, what is it going to offend my partner? What are they going to think? And on the other hand, when we talk about, like on a personal basis, talking about sexual health testing, then people might associate that with, oh, if you need to get tested, that must mean you're promiscuous. Or, if you need to get tested, it must mean that you are in a non-monogamous relationship or something like that. So I'm hoping, as I see more and more clients from the younger millennial and Gen Z, demographics, I have so much, they give me so much hope, because I think they truly embrace what it is to have, to be aware of sexual health and to be sex positive, and not have these labels assigned to people who talk openly about sex and their sexual desires. So I'm hoping that we're moving towards the right direction, to give people a safe space, at least within friendship circles to talk about such things. Yeah. I think when it comes to this topic and talking about it with your partner, definitely I think it's going to be awkward, right? But let me assure you, when I meet with clients, when I talk to clients and they are here for talk about relationships, a lot of people actually have this on the back of their minds. A lot of people are curious, like, how do I ask? I'm afraid that it will offend the other person, but I want to know because even if they've already had sex with that person, sometimes they're still feeling a little bit unsettled. So I just want to encourage you. Your partner may be thinking the exact same thing. And if you are the first person to actually broach it, to bring it, I think your partner may actually appreciate your courage for bringing it up. They might be so relieved that, oh, thank God they brought it up, so I don't have to. So, I've seen enough people with the same question. I feel confident to tell you, don't worry, just ask. And it's all about how you ask, right? So how do we ask, right? So I would say come from an approach of safety first, right? And if your partner feels, by asking me this question, is it that you don't trust me? Do you think that I am, that I have slept with, many people in the past, so you think that I'm at risk? So you have to really lay the ground and be gentle and tell them that this is not at all about labels. It's not at all about blaming or trust. It's purely from a point of safety first. And how about we do it together, right? We'll do it together and we can share our results with each other as well, right? It doesn't have to be anything stigmatizing. And it's not that I want you to get tested and I don't need to because I know I don't have anything. We can do it together, right? And it can be such a strong way to start out a relationship because you are already building trust on such an intimate level. I think, I really think that this could be a really healthy way to start off a relationship, to show each other that, hey, I'm willing to be open and vulnerable with you. I'm not going to make, assumptions and snap judgments. We are going to do this together. We're going to be open and honest with each other from the beginning. And relationships which start off so well with so much trust, I actually think that a lot of times people tell me that as they trust their partner, they're also willing to try more things in bed, right? Things become more fun. They become less inhibited, and you can actually have so much more fun, after getting this testing done. So why not, right? It may actually make a lot of doors open up, and you can, just feel so safe with your partner. And I think having that sort of safety leads to a lot of excitement and possibility of what you can do together as well, rather than always having at the back of your head, are they really okay? Do I take their word for it? These are just libido dampening questions, right? And if we can move past them, why not? Yeah. So I think some other practical tips, right, on how you can do this. So share with your partner firstly that the testing is all about safety, right? About how it will make you feel at ease, about how it will make you feel that you can take your relationship to a whole other level, opening up all of this trust. If you have also done testing in the past, share your experience with your partner. Maybe it's their very first time, so it's daunting for them. Maybe you can tell them, hey, last month or 2 months ago, I actually went to get tested. Everything, it wasn't easy. I was very nervous when I first went or when I first ordered the kit. But, finding out that everything was okay made me feel really at ease. And I highly recommend we can do it. And I'm happy to do it again. We can do it together. If you've also, if you feel comfortable, if you've had an experience where you tested positive for something, also you can feel free to share that with your partner. You can tell them, hey, 3 months ago, I did the test via the kit, and I actually found out that I had chlamydia, and I thought I was being really, really safe. And I thought all my partners were really safe also, but this just shows me how sneaky STDs can be. I managed to get some medication. I'm completely fine now. I'm not going to be passing anything on. But I think before, before we are intimate with each other, I want to do a test again just to be sure. And would you join me? Like, can we do it together? Right. So there are many gentle, safe, and respectful ways that you can approach the conversation. And I would say, and also just a advice, I guess, like what I would tell my own, if I had a child, or if I was talking to a good friend, what I would tell them is, even after speaking to your prospective partner in a very gentle, very kind, non-judgmental way, but there is still a lot of resistance, right? Then I would ask you to ask yourself, like really seriously ask yourself, is this the right partner for me? And do I really want to be so vulnerable with my body with someone who does not respect my safety? Right? So I think that's an important question to ask ourselves. If you're really encountering a partner who is very, very resistant, extremely resistant, no matter how sensitive you're being with asking, and no matter how kindly you're doing it. So and this could also be something that you might want to talk in that close friendship circle that you have, right? The group of friends where you talk about. Maybe your friends may have good suggestions as to how to approach this conversation, and maybe they've had experiences with resistant partners, and they know, and they have some ideas about, oh, that was actually this person's fear. So once you allayed it, they were okay. So have these conversations with friends. You might also learn a thing or two from them about how they navigated these experiences.
Thank you a lot, Shila. Yeah, that was very insightful. I mean, this topic can be very delicate, especially in Singapore, where a lot of such, when it comes to sexual health testing, couples are still very shy about it. You don't know how to go about it as much as they want to. And you mentioned that it turns out most of the time, both of them are open to doing it, or it's something that would foster trust between couples. So approaching the conversation gently is really the way to go about it, and understanding that it's a very vulnerable and safe place for both of them to foster and build this trust with one another.
Definitely. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have covered the topics that we have for today, and we are onto our Q&A segment. You can unmute your mic or type your questions into the chat box. So looking at our Q&A chat box, I see that we have a couple of questions that came in. So the first question we have today is, what do we tell a family or friend who are not open to doing the COVID protocol when we meet up? Do we not meet with them? Then it feels discriminating and could be hurtful.
Yes. So I would say definitely, maybe you've already had this conversation, but I would be very interested to find out from this individual, what is it that is, that is so challenging about the protocols that they find it difficult to do, or they're not able to do it, right? So I would want to understand, is it because they just really don't care, or is there really a problem, and can I help in some way? Because especially now with social responsibility, I think it's a really important time to be socially responsible. I would say that if you do have vulnerable individuals in your household, young children, babies, elderly with health issues, I'm hopeful that when you explain it to this friend or family member, like why you can't meet them, hopefully they understand, right? It's just being socially responsible. Or you could tell them, hey, I value this relationship. I want to spend time with you. Can we do activities that are out in the open? Can we do activities that are virtual, like maybe a virtual game night or virtual meal, until they can get things on their side sorted? So I think it's helpful to share with them that this relationship means a lot to you, right? And that just because they don't follow the protocols, we don't need the relationship to end, but we may need the relationship to evolve, like how we meet, what we do together, those things may need to evolve.
Thank you. The next question we have here is, how do I address my need for intimacy with my partner if it feels like the days are just continuous and we don't feel like there is time for recreation? We're both hardworking millennials, and we use the weekend for personal development and for catching up to work.
Yeah. This is so real. I think the days are just continuous. I feel you completely. And yeah, using the weekend for personal development and catching up to work. Wow. You know, there is no easy way, there's no other way really to say this except time has to be made for the relationship if you want to develop intimacy. What does that, what does that look like? How much intimacy do the both of you require for this relationship? Are phone check-ins enough? Does it have to be a meeting in person? Can it be a video call? What works for you? Perhaps have a conversation around what works for you. What are your baselines in terms of your needs? Maybe you and your partner both have very different needs in terms of maybe one person needs a lot more time with the partner, one person doesn't. So can you work out something that works for the both of you? What activities are you both agreeable to do together? And then maybe, after having that conversation and having some pointers to guide you, then you can carve out the appropriate time and space to do that. I know couples that, they only meet like maybe 2-3 hours a week and they're still going strong. And I know couples that need to meet every night for dinner, so it's really knowing what you need and is it enough? Yeah.
Thank you. The next question we have is, what do we do if my partner doesn't like to get vaccinated? This issue has brought us apart in our relationship. We've been in long distance relationship and this has made our relationship worse because of COVID.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a really difficult situation. I'm sure you've had many conversations around why your partner does not want to get vaccinated. And those answers may or may not be satisfactory for you, I guess. I sense there's a lot of frustration. So perhaps you don't quite agree with the reasons why they don't want to get vaccinated. I would say for something like this, it may also make you feel like because my partner is not getting vaccinated, they are not treasuring me and they are not treasuring our relationship and what we have. It can become a very personal discussion. So I wonder if this is something you might actually want to take to speak to a relationship counselor or a therapist about. Is this a relationship that can go on in the current state? Or do you feel that because this vaccination is not happening, you're not getting what you need anymore? And if it's affecting your physical, mental, emotional, and sexual health, are there solutions? Are there practical solutions with the same partner involved? If there are no practical solutions, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to do or change? And what would that look like for you? So I think this is a much bigger and deeper conversation that you may have to have either together in individual therapy or couples therapy.
Thank you. Okay, and the last question for today is, what do you recommend to those who are in long distance relationships, especially for those who are not in the same country?
Yeah, so I think this reminds me of, I think one of the first few questions I think we were talking about, where that being intentional in setting up that time, scheduling that time to spend together. I do know couples in long distance relationships who, because they've not been able to, if the country is not even a BTL country and you can't go over and visit them, they've really just been ramping up and doing more exciting things via video calls, phone sex or video sex, using quality sex toys, sort of finding new ways to forge that intimacy and closeness over the distance. But I would say that, a lot of things about trust and safety in a relationship is also being a part of each other's lives. So apart from, sexual intimacy, do also ensure that you're engaging in conversations about each other's day-to-day lives, so that you're still connected, and still in a partnership. Don't forget that it's a partnership, so you still need to be supporting each other and journeying together in your day-to-day lives. But I do hope that you can also carve out time for really special moments of excitement and intimacy.
Thank you. Yeah, I think long distance relationship is something that's very hard to navigate. I have a friend who did it for I think a few years. Yeah, but what he did with his partner very often was they would schedule to have meals together, and then they would just, so sometimes she's having breakfast, he's having dinner, but they take that time to sit in front of the computer just to eat with each other, to update each other about their day-to-day life.
Yes, yes. I think it would be really strange if you only connected for phone sex or video sex, but you're not like sharing your lives together. So yeah, please do that, and don't skimp on that too. That's just as important, right? The intimacy has so many levels to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one last question came in, which is something similar to what we have discussed, is about practices that's recommended for couples in this COVID era from the intimacy standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think definitely, I think one thing that comes to mind is what I shared earlier about, what the New York Health Department, their brilliant suggestion of experimenting with sexual positions that, that we've maybe never tried before, where our faces are not so close together. So this is especially for couples who are new to each other, right? Not in any long-term relationship yet. So I thought that was just brilliant. So I thought I'll bring it up again. And then the other one really, I think, is I've also read, couples who maybe they don't feel so safe because they don't really know each other and having sex right off the bat. So what they do is they actually masturbate each other or themselves, and they're in the same room. So there is still this sense of connection and intimacy. We're doing something kinky together, but we may not exactly be touching. You can also surprise each other by sending your partner sex toys. I read that sex toy sales have been going after really ramping up, right, during the COVID period. So yeah, that's definitely something you can do. Maybe investing in the same or the similar ones and using them together, experimenting together. I think these are all great ways that we can try to be creative yet safe during and still maintaining that intimacy during the pandemic.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Sheila, for your time today. We covered a few topics today, but a lot of it really helped in our interpersonal relationships with the people around us, and in approaching subjects about sexual health, relationships, and how to cope with the stressful situations that has arose from this pandemic situation. So thank you very much.
Welcome. It's been my pleasure. This was really fun. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for your time in joining us. So here we have Safe Space promo code for you. So to empower your relationships this year, you can book your next 5 sessions with a Safe Space therapist, which is Sheila herself, at 10%. So the promo code is right here. You can take a screenshot and scan this QR code. Yeah, and also from our end, so from Ferne, we do have a lot of different kinds of sexual health testing and supplements, birth control on our website. So here we have is the common STD screening and the couples full care bundle, which has the full STD Essential 7 test. So it tests for all the different kinds of STDs. This is the one that we were talking about earlier, that if you want to bring it up and talking to your partners about it, you can take it up as a couple's activity to foster a closer relationship with one another. So here is the promo code for 10% off today. And you can scan it and take a screenshot as well. Yeah, so thank you all for your time today. We hope you have a good evening. And if you do have any other questions for Sheila or myself, feel free to reach us out at on our Instagram platforms or emails. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks, Kristen. It was fun doing this with you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Sheila.
much,
Yeah,
Sheila,
thank you.
Christine. Thank you so much for all of the attendees. Have a great night, everybody. See you.
Bye. Bye.